All right, good morning. It is Labor Day weekend. It's Saturday, and I am going to finish up putting in my sprinkler system. So back in 2020, we installed the front yard and the side yard over here by the driveway. That was 20 heads, 5 zones, and then this summer has been focused on my backyard. And that is going to be a 2-zone 10 head. So I'm going to increase the heads per zone. Do have a lot of pressure, so should be able to handle it. And I will be installing the K-Rain RPS 75i rotors. And what I wanted to do is just kind of go through the process of how to build the heads and actually get them ready to go in the ground. A couple of ways you can do this. K-Rain is very similar to Hunter, and what we're going to do today is install the nozzles and then in the elbows, which will be attaching to the funny pipe. So I'm going to go through how to put one together with you, and then I will get the rest done, and then we'll assemble the valves, and then we'll go put everything in the ground. All right. Okay, so what we need today is we need a head, we need an elbow, and we need nozzles. So as you can see, each head comes with 12 nozzles. They're numbered. The higher the number, the bigger the opening, and that is what creates your spray. Today we're going to go with the 1.5. So on each of these, I'm going to go through, find the 1.5, take it off, and that will be the nozzle we use. The rest of these I'll keep. You never know when you're going to need more nozzles. And if we decide we want to change those in the future, then I can go ahead and do that. All right, first things first, the way I like to do it, separate the actual rotor from the body. I press it against my body, I take the nozzle, and I'm going to just push it into the head. Once I get it in, take this, we call this the key, and then if you look closely, you can put it right into you're gonna have to push through the rubber. There's an Allen in there. I don't know if you can see. All right, so if you look, there's a nozzle in there. I now have the key in the top. And if I slowly crank this down, you'll see the set screw peeking from the top. And we just want to screw that down enough so that it holds the nozzle in when the pressure comes through the line and pops the head up. You don't want that nozzle flying out. And then we'll do our fine adjustments once we get that started. Once that's in, screw it back in. Then we take our elbow. This is going to attach to the actual sprinkler line. See the threads on the bottom. Just going to take that and lightly thread it into the bottom of the head. We don't want to go too tight, because once we get out there, we need to make our adjustments. If this is too tight, we're not going to be able to move the body around. So we tighten it just enough so that it won't leak out the bottom, but loose enough that it allows you to adjust. And the reason for that is every head comes with a 180-degree movement. We adjust ours based on right-hand stop. Your right-hand stop is always going to be in the same spot. So when I come out, when I'll line it towards the garden bed or the house, wherever I want that right to stop, and then I'll be able to adjust how far it goes left. Right now, everyone's 180. Eventually, they may be up to 270 or even 360, or they could even be down to 140, 120. But we go ahead, we always do set them at a right-hand stop. This way, when I'm setting them in the ground, I know where I can try to get a good idea of where I want to aim it. And that's head assembly. Very easy. All right, so that's all 10 heads assembled. Now we're gonna assemble the 2 valves. This is pretty straightforward. Basically, from the main line, you're gonna have this T connected in. It's threaded onto the back of this valve, which then comes out to the zone line. The valve does nothing more than control when water goes into the zone. These wires are connected to a wire that runs through the ground and eventually goes to my sprinkler clock. This solenoid is controlling the valve inside. And then if you just want to do it manually, you have a bleeder valve here. This isn't used very often. You can actually do it manually from the clock once it's all wired in. But this is just a good way to get the system going when you want to finally adjust all of the heads. Before we thread this T on, and then for the last zone, we're going to be using a threaded elbow. You just want to make sure that you put Teflon tape around the threads. This just creates any seal. There's a lot of pressure in the line on this connection at all times because the main line never shuts off. It's always going. So we just want to make sure that we seal that up as best as possible. So I'm going to get these 2 assembled, and then we'll go outside and we'll get the system in the ground. And there you go. 2 valves assembled, 10 heads assembled, and now I will meet you outside and we will get this in the ground. Get back. All right, outside. Gonna get started on the installation of the 10 heads, but just a little lay of the land. So this is where the new part of the lawn is going. You can see the pipes already sticking out of the ground in some areas. Did go through some existing grass, and basically what happened is, here's my existing lawn. So we have 16 heads out here, 4 heads over here. Last year, cut across the driveway and ran my main line over to here. There's an end cap down there. The valve box is covered. Everything's a mess right now. Tropical Storm Ida came through, and the ground is very wet. This hole was dug just before that, so it did wash in, but I'll get that end cap dug up again. I gotta get into the valve box to run that wire so I can tie that in. And we drag the main line back here. So the 2 new valves will go in this valve box right here. Main line, zone number 6, zone number 7, and then there is going to be another 10 heads out here. So what I plan on doing, there's a couple spots where the tropical storm washed out, but overall the loom held up really well. So I'm just going to undermine this and get it buried even deeper. And then there's a couple other spots, same thing. That is just a matter of digging it down, burying it. One thing I do want to show you guys is how to do a connection. So we have that zone line running here, and then we have a T right here. So I'm going to dig this up, connect this in as a T. So I'll show you guys how to do that, and then I will show you how to install a couple of heads, and we will go from there. I'm doing a T connection. I just cut the pipe, putting on my hose clamps. Here are my pipe cutters. Here is the T connection, and we're going to get this teed off, so this will all be one zone. When you're installing irrigation, blowtorch is your best friend. Help us just soften the pipe for a quick second while you're able to get connections on. Just saves you a lot of extra work and extra effort that you don't need to be doing. So first thing here, how do you do? Alright, try to get it as close to this piece of pipe as you can, this outgoing extension. I usually hold off on clamping the clamps, on crimping down the clamps until I get everything set. That way I can make micro adjustments on where the connector is facing. So, heat up the other piece of poly. And this is where you gotta finagle a little bit and try to Alright, so this one's going to be a little more difficult to get all the way up, but as long as you get it past that lip, you have some good real estate to clamp down on. Alright, now, next thing is to get this pipe tied in. So, first measure it off, mark it with your thumb, come in, cut it, and don't forget your clamps. Don't ask me how I know, but if you forget your clamps, you will be digging this all back up. All right. Might need to give it a little extra heat. Just don't overheat it. You'll warp the pipe. Use my foot as a backing, and then I can kind of just bite right down. Alright, that should do it. Last step, probably most important, got all my clamps on, so now I am going to tighten them up. So, three main tools I used were my pipe cutters, my pliers for crimping clamps, and my blowtorch. Time to install a head. This is in the middle of a zone line, so we're going to be using a saddle. That's your saddle. So that loops around the 1-inch poly pipe. It's going to clamp together. I'm not going to do it now because it's impossible to get apart. And then in this threaded female, we're going to screw this in. This piece right here will pierce the pipe, and that will allow the water to flow through the saddle into the swing pipe and out to the head. So pretty easy. When I dug, I undermined the pipe to make sure that I could get my hand around it. Just give it a quick clean with my hands. You just put it around, and then what I do is I push here with my palm until I hear it click. And there it is. So this pipe is pretty deep in the ground. The nice thing about these saddles is you can angle them however you want. So this is fairly deep in the ground. I'm going to have it at a slight angle up, only because I want to be able to make the swing and get the swing pipe onto it. So. And it makes it much easier to screw that in. You basically screw it all the way in. You're not going to tell that it pierced the pipe. What you're going to feel is a click here. When you feel that click, you know you have it all the way in. All right, next up, heads. So we talked about right-hand stop. This is set at right-hand stop, but this is going to be a 360-degree head, so it really doesn't matter where I place it. It would be more important along the road, along the driveway. You want to make sure that you have that lined up right on the driveway or a mulch bed or the house. So, but for this instance, it does not matter. Take my swing pipe. Just going to you can use the blowtorch for this as well. I try to limit how often I use that, just because you can overheat some of these and you don't want to do that. All right, there's that. Then put it into the hole and leave it there. You're going to unwind and measure. Cut it right about here. Cut it. And there it is. Now, just bring it back here. You want to set it so it's level with your grade. Again, the right-hand stop doesn't matter, but I'm just going to point it up that way. And there we go. Backfill around it. Push down. You want to make sure it's standing upright and level with the grade. Right. Then you'll backfill the rest of this, rake it out, and this one is ready to go.
Here we go. Last of the heads are in. Now I got to install the valves. So I'm going to build the valve right here, and then I'm going to wire it up. Basically the same thing. These are all connectors. Most important thing is having clamps on these. So here's my main line. That's going to come in here. It's going to allow it to go all the way through. And then I have an elbow, because this is the end of the line, which will go connect into here. This zone will run along the house and along the deck. This zone will run up into the open part of the backyard, and we should get pretty good coverage with 10 heads. So. Alright, so that was much quicker than I anticipated. The valve is built, so as you can see, I got the two manifolds right here, the two valves. Now we just got to wire it, which should take no time at all. So you need to ground, so one of these wires is your ground. Typically use the white wire as the ground wire. So I'm going to take the right wire from this valve and the right wire from this valve, and I will wrap them around the white. There's usually a little bit of extra copper at the top, so what I like to do is just fold it down, make sure that there's good contact with the copper. Something I've done forever, and have no real reason to stop unless somebody comments below and tells me why I shouldn't do that. Then I take my wire nut and just gonna put it over the top and crank it down until it's tight. Full warning too, I'm not tied into the house yet, so these are not live wires. But ultimately, when I get to that point, I will go in and unplug the clock. That's where my power source is just plug in the wall, so I can unplug it and I'll be able to go into the main valve box, which is near the backflow preventer. I'll tie in the 2 wires for these 2 zones, and then I'll plug it back in and we'll be good to go. All right. When determining what colors and what order, I go alphabetically. So black, blue, brown, right down the line. And then it just depends on what colors I have available. So green and red, I want the zone near the house to be zone 6. So I'm gonna go with green for this one. That's it, all wired. So like I said, I'm going to tie it in over here to that wire. There's a 4-way wire over there, so I do have 2 more zones that I can attach to. I'll redo the ground wires over there, and then I'll just tie in those 2 wires in the main valve box, and off we go. So yeah, I'm going to get this tied into the main line, get that wiring done, and then hopefully we will have this running in the next short while. So that's it, we're tied in. I adjusted the top zone. I'll adjust the bottom zone tomorrow that runs along the house. But yeah, pretty easy. 1 day's worth of work, 10 heads, 2 valves, and then tying into the main line.
Come here. 1, 2, 3, go. Come on.
The only thing I gotta do is wire it into the main valve box and then wire it into the clock. So more updates to come.